Sunspot counts are at a 21-year high. The sun is kicked up into high gear and it is throwing out the sunspots and the flares. What that means to you as a prepper is that the risk of our grid going down is going up. Doesn't mean our grid's going to go down, but it just means the probability is higher than it would be otherwise. So we're going to kind of look at this, guys. We're going to look at these sunspot cycles. Hang on here. Do a share screen. We're going to come over here to space weather, spaceweather.com. And this is the chart right here, guys, of the solar cycles. And as you might know, we are right here, right now. You can see this. It's been 21 years since we've had an activity like this. Of course, this last solar cycle, 24, was pretty low. Now, some people are speculating that this means that the sunspot cycle 25 might actually be a short one. I would say we've had a lot of evidence lately of a 2-peak solar maximum. So this could just be an early 2-peak solar maximum like the last couple. I haven't heard anybody say that, and I don't know why not. But that seems to make a little more sense. But then again, it could be right. It might be a short one. So we'll just have to see about that. But I do tend to think it's going to be something more like this, maybe more pronounced. So the thing is, the sunspots are likely to go up, especially if this is the crest right here along the year 2025, as was expected. Otherwise, we still might be going up if the peak is indeed going to be sooner. So it's not anticipated that we've hit the peak yet. Those that think we're going to hit an early peak are projecting it by the end of this year, which means it could be really crazy before this year ends. I don't know, guys, but those are possibilities. As you know, most of the solar physicists were projecting that we were going to have a very, very weak solar cycle this time based on the overall trend line and the last one being weak. However, I did a video 2 years ago about some analysis. Some scientists did it. Said, oh no, the next one's going to be a lot stronger because the last one had a very short duration between certain parameters, which they laid out. And you can watch all this in this video. I'm not going to explain it here tonight. But if you go back 2 years ago and just search on my videos where it says, I searched on sun and it came up, but you can say solar flares. In this video, solar flares cranking up as our magnetic shields drop down. And indeed, our magnetic shield is going down, which means we might be more susceptible to a weaker solar flare than our CME, coronal mass ejection, than what the sun gave us back in 1859 with the Carrington event. It could well be that the railroad event, a lot of people thought the railroad event in 1921 would take down our modern grid, and who knows, maybe soon the Quebec hydro event like we had in 1989 might do the same too. So that's kind of what this was about. You know, this was, well, we're still close to the solar minimum. So I was talking about the upcoming sun cycle, not, you know, something's going to happen the next day or two. Well, we're in that cycle now. And the scientists who predicted this were right. They went against the trend of the common prevailing thought. But their analysis was pretty good. And they said, hey, every time we've seen this, every single time we've came out with a stronger solar cycle. And indeed, that's what we've done. We have come out, as you can plainly see, and as you've been watching the sun and watching all these activities of late, we are in a stronger solar cycle. And in fact, we've had a huge, large sunspot that I reported on, I think, one of our live videos recently. This complex here is huge. Fortunately, as it ran around us, it didn't kick out a major flare, although it did kick out, I think, an X1 right here a couple of days ago that caused some radio blackouts in the West Coast and the Pacific Ocean. So fortunately for us, the biggest solar flares of late have happened on the other side of the sun, and some people speculate that some of those could have been large enough to take down a grid. Some of them were very large, and it's been kicking them out for a year or two on the other side, quite a few big ones. And we have been very fortunate. They've all been aimed away from us so far. But this may be more like playing Russian roulette. It may be that we've just been lucky. So how long will our luck hold out? Let's hope it keeps holding out. Because like I said, it's all probabilities. The sun kicks out CMEs in different directions through different solar cycles, sometimes some real big ones. We just have to make sure that they miss us. There was one kicked out by the sun in 2012 that absolutely could have got us had Earth been where that CME went, but fortunately it was not aimed at us either. And that one was thought to maybe have been stronger than the Carrington event by some sources. So you can see this is the solar flare that just occurred right here. Look at this, guys. It caused the radial blackouts. This was on the 3rd of July, which is yesterday. Okay, so this just occurred. See, it flashed the sensors. When you see that, that means the sensors of the observer, the satellite that's observing it, got flashed. And here's what the sun's looking like rotating around. Very active, a lot of sunspots there. And there's another picture down here that kind of captures the angry looking sun that we have right now, along with a couple of smaller coronal holes, which also can send out a lot of charged particles. And you can see the aurora activity right now is fairly decent. The good thing about this stuff is that you can have some really nice auroras, and hopefully that's all we'll get out of this. It's something to sit outside and go ooh and ah over. I'd love to see some auroras down here. Again, I have seen them before, but it's been, I think, 21 years ago in that cycle that I was actually able to go outside and see some auroras back when we were back in this cycle back here. I did see some right here. I looked at one right from my front porch, red glow of the northern horizon. It's very rare you see something like that from Alabama. But during the Carrington event, people were actually able to read outside from the solar flare was so bright, the aurora was so bright. Miners in Colorado actually woke up early and started making their coffee because they thought the sun was rising, because they had that pre-dawn light, but it wasn't. It was the aurora. So once they saw the aurora, it's like, oh, okay, not time to make breakfast. What's that? So that was one of the reports. Of course, it also caused telegraph stations to catch fire and shocked some of the telegraph operators. That was the electronics technology of the day. And yeah, good thing that they had very primitive systems and not a lot of things were wired up, or they would have been we would have been in trouble as a society back then. So so what we're doing here is we're looking at overall a lot of activity. So let's look at some other charts here. All right, now this is what the solar cycles look like over time. This is going back from solar cycle 12. Now, these probably go back to the modern minimum before when the solar cycle 1 is counted here. But what you can see is the sunspots start out at about 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south on the sun. And as you march toward maximum, they get closer and closer to the equator, and then they pan out. This was the last solar cycle. I don't think this really shows what the short period the scientists I was mentioning and talked about, but they were looking at really how fast it gets to the poles, and maybe a couple other things in that. So they had their criteria they were measuring on, and as you can see here, let's click on this chart. You see there was kind of a downward trend from 1980. That's what led a lot of people to think we were coming into another grand solar minimum, because this trend was just steadily going down. And so a lot of people making this is solar cycle 24. A lot of people predicted solar cycle 25 would be much smaller, just based on this, or no bigger than this one based on the trend line. But it's turned out to be bigger, and it could be quite a bit bigger. We just don't know how far where it's really going to peak yet. You can see the double peak here. There's a little bit of a double peak in these two also. And there has been things like that in the past, but sometimes you get a huge fountain in the center, like back here in the late 50s. That was a major solar cycle then. So let's go in back and look at some of these other atoms here, guys, to give you some idea. But see, the problem is that our sun is actually well, our Earth's magnetic field, which is our shield that protects us, is dropping. That's what we've got to worry about here. Doesn't mean, like I said, this doesn't mean that it will take our grid out now in this cycle. But I would submit, if we don't get a grid hardened, sooner or later the sun will get us. It's not a matter of will it, it's just a matter of when will it. A lot of different effects measured here. You can see from the various satellites it goes. I don't want to go all in that. That takes too long to explain. So see the fluxes and things like that. You can see the double peaks here, some of these cycles. starting back in 1990. There's a little bit of a double peak there. So we come back here, and I want to show you. I'm going to show you some more data that's interesting. All right, guys. Everybody talks about the monitor minimum. In the monitor minimum, there was a 70-year period that there was only 60 sunspots. Yeah, we're not there. There was a Dalton minimum, which looked like we were moving in something like that. In fact, some people started calling the last cycle to be part of a Eddy minimum. And maybe it was. Maybe that's how we'll look back at it. It was called the Eddy minimum. And so I guess that's what it was. But has that minimum ended? That's a good question. Or do we have some kind of spurious spike in the center of it because of the kind of activities that scientific team I mentioned earlier was talking about? See, these are good questions. This is the overall minimums and maximums you can look at. You can see the medieval maximum. Maybe that corresponds to the late medieval warming period. And of course, we are in a warm period now, it seems. And does that correspond to this? Some people say no. Some people say yes. What do you think? A lot of people are saying that, what happens? Let's go back here. If we scroll on down here, you're going to notice the cosmic rays reaching Earth have dropped significantly. They have dropped like a rock. They were way up here, and then whoop, they dropped. So this all corresponds with our solar minimum because the sun, when it's active, it pushes those cosmic rays further out into the solar system. They're not able to do the charge to get within the orbit of Earth too well. And this is data taken from balloon flights, balloon sondes. So we're way down here right now, which means that cloud nucleation due to cosmic rays is somewhat less than it would have been over here. That's what a lot of people, Spinsberg and some others, reported as being the effect that might have brought us cooling during a solar minimums. Now, that's disputed by some scientists, so there's some claiming either way. So I'm not going to get into that tonight. We can talk about it later. But in any event, so we're going to come back over to here, not been, and look at this. Now, this data here makes the medieval warm period look to be maybe warmer than this, but not warmer than over here or over here. I got to tell you, though, I've seen other temperature charts this area that show this as a hump, quite a few. I'll have to dig that up again. But the fact of the matter is, when the Vikings came to North America, they were eating grapes in areas that grapes don't grow now, in areas outside of what should have been the trade routes that they had been finding from. And they called North America Vinland, areas that they were in areas that are today we consider pretty darn cold. So this whole idea that this cool, I think, could be possibly contested by the archaeological findings at the campsites of the Vikings, where they indeed are finding what they ate, the husk, and they found the grape remains, which validate what they were telling us. And all the scientists were poo-pooing it. No, that can't be true. That wasn't true. It didn't happen. Well, it's been found in their campsite. So what does that mean? I will leave that to others to argue and work out. But it is an interesting data point that may countervail this, because this data may be data that's management cooked, like a lot of other data that I've been involved in and other things, where scientists and engineers write reports, and by the time the management gets done with it, don't always say what the originator put on it. Once it gets the management spin, does this curve a management spin ship curve, or is this actual data? I will need to talk with Roy Spencer and ask him. So indeed, we did get a drop in temperature in the little ice age, which kind of roughly corresponds to some of that minimum activity. If we can come back over in here and look at it. This is roughly the little ice age in this point area right here, which the sunspot activity was down. So that could correspond, possibly, potentially, but that seems to be beside the point right now, because we are in a solar active period, which means if this gives us cooling, the cosmic rays are gone, the cooling's not here, so you expect things to heat up, among other things. So for temporarily, unless Campi Flegrei decides to go boom. in a big way. Smaller way may not be a big deal, but if it goes boom like it did back 43,000 years ago, look out, guys. And some people are projecting something like that is possible. Not saying it will happen, just that it's possible. So, guys, what I'm doing is I'm trying to wake you up to the idea that there's a lot of challenges to our societal stability. If you think everything's always going to be the same, nothing's going to happen, and you bury your pretty little head in the sand and know everything going on around you, then you're likely, well, your head's in the sand and get your rear end kicked. You know what I mean? So be prepared. That's what I'm here to tell you more than anything. These are Miyake events. They have often been attributed to solar flares, coronal mass ejections. This particular article is contributing to cosmic rays. Now, I think the jury is out on this. I've seen arguments both ways. This corresponds roughly to the what some of us call the Carrington event, not Carrington event, the Charlemagne event, pardon me. But you can see there's been various events that have affected weather quite a bit over time. And of course, we know there's been also volcanic events. It's thought that a volcano in the mid 500s did in a lot of civilizations. So we got a lot of things to take into account and the things that can adversely affect our weather or our power grid. And so my primary concern here is the stability of our power grid. Should we get a coronal mass ejection, a big one, that could possibly take us out. As you can see, the sun is stronger. And you can see that we've had those kind of things. Let's see, one of these things got the history of those kind of events here. Let me click there. This is a report talking about the cloud ionization, nuclearization. This report's kind of both ways on it. It's kind of, it does say that, hey, yeah, the ionization does form, you can form nucleation, but they're not sure that it happens at the cloud level. So this report is kind of a mixed bag on this result. So I'm not going to go into it because it's kind of, it's inconclusive. Let me say it that way at best. Now, if you want to look at overall temperature trends over time, you can find over the last 5 million years, the temperature has been clearly going, meow. I've shown y'all charts that show since the end of the dinosaur era, the temperatures have dropped very dramatically. It's not just 5 million years. And in fact, if you looked at, yeah, here's some of the CME history, notable coronal mass ejections. And they're talking about the, here is the 9 March 1989. This is the event that took place that took out the Quebec power grid. They call it Quebec Hydro. And took out some others too, and also fried some big transformers in, I believe, Salem, Massachusetts. Here is the July, the 23 July 2012, which, you know, kind of corresponds with the old Mayan calendar, right? Maybe we just missed doomsday then. Solar superstorm. Yeah, look at this, guys. This was the 2012 CME, which fortunately for us was aimed in the other direction. But this was at a solar maximum, very similar to what we're heading into right now. In fact, the activity level then was about what we're at the moment. So that's why I'm saying we got to watch out. We were just lucky that that one missed us and aimed in the other direction. So let's go back here one more time to look at this. See, here's today. Back here is, oh, that's 2012. Yikes, 2012 wasn't as high as we are today. Yeah, it was actually back in early 2000s we were as high. So we're actually higher now than we were then. It is possible to get a major CME even at a solar minimum. And that was one of the things I meant to show you when I was showing that overall minimum map. Yeah, right here. No, this one don't have it. Let's see, maybe it's one of the other versions. Yeah, right here. Because if CME occurred in 7, no, this don't go back far. Yeah, nope. I saw another chart. Let me back out of this one. Somewhere I saw another chart earlier. If you go back to 700, we were, I think a chart I was looking at earlier showed that that was coincident with a solar minimum. Now, it could have been a cosmic ray event. But anyway, I'm not going to hunt that and waste your time hunting that around right now. I was looking at it a minute ago. But you can see there's a lot of things going on with weather, with volcanoes, with solar events. The bottom line is this. This is the bottom line. You've got to get ready, because any assumption that everything always stays the same is a very bad assumption, because everything always changes. When I was a kid, I was reading reports that were saying that the previous 100 years had been climate-wise the most stable we had ever had in history for thousands of years. Very stable. It was very good for agriculture. Agriculture really developed up through the 60s and 70s. That was somewhere in the early 70s. I was reading that when I was a young kid, basically, and I still recall that. So that was a very important data point. But now we just may be returning to normal in a sense, or according to some, we're heading into a huge danger zone. So whatever the case is, a coronal mass ejection could hit us. It could take out our grid. We now have more sunspots than we did in 2012. That 2012 event fortunately missed us. We've seen a few others just in the last year that look like they might have taken us out, but they also were aimed away from us. We're fortunate so far. How long will our luck last? Don't bank on it. What you need to bank on is yourself. You need to bank on your own self-reliance. Get ready. Buy seeds and garden. Buy prep and supplies. Take care of yourself. My friends, I'm going to show you something here real quick. This is an end. So what I want you to do is consider, I got links below to True Leaf Market and Eden Brothers for seeds, get heirloom seeds, but also consider you might want to get some of this long-term food storage. If you go to prepwithgreg.com, there we've got a special right now, $80 off a 4-week supply. This could change in a minute. They change these all the time. So you can get a good savings there for a 4-week supply. Each bucket is 2 weeks, or you can get a 2-week supply or other prep supplies. I highly encourage you to go in here and check out water filtration. Of course, you got air purification, survival items. Just check it out and see if there's something there that makes sense to you. Enough said for that. So my friends, what I'm bringing you here is just the notion that the risk of a CME is higher. Not saying it's going to happen, but we've seen them, and the risk of one happening is higher. The risk of one reaching Earth is higher. Our shields are down and going down. That's not good. So just be ready, just in case. Be ready. Prepare yourself. Get your supplies in order. If the grid goes down, a lot of people are thinking it's going to be back in a year or two or a few months. No. If you take that and fry those large transformers, you fry enough of them, it may not come back in your lifetime. So if you think that solar generator is going to keep you, if you think that gasoline generator is going to sustain you over the long term, no. For several reasons. One, you're not going to be able to buy gas because the pumps are going to be out. If you have a gas station where it has pumps, he's going to have problems getting the trucks there to deliver it, because everybody's out everywhere, and those trucks will have trouble finding fuel. The refinery is going to be not operating. The supply chain is going to be gone. Eventually, it's all going to unravel. So everybody, mainly for preps, likes to think about getting the gas generators and Faraday cages and keeping our electronics going. It seems to be the top priority of most people. That should be one of your last priorities, because the first thing you'll do is go out and buy hand tools. Buy hand tools. I've done so many videos going to the flea markets, shopping for hand tools, and trying to explain the importance of that to you. Gardening tools, hand operated gardening tools, hose and rakes and things like that. Brace and bit, not the impact drills. Get stuff that's going to last. If you break the handle, you can make a new handle. But that hoe head, that rake head, can last a long, long time, and they may be very valuable. That and seeds. That's what I recommend. And have water filtration, purification. Know how to make clothing or obtain clothing. Not going to the store to buy it anymore. Might be the reason to raise rabbits. Rabbit fur clothing might be a solution. You're not going to be doing a lot of hunting, but you better have a way to feed them rabbits and give them water if you do that, or whatever you got. So, you know, wearing chicken feathers is kind of hard. So think about things like that. Consider, the wild game's going to be gone in no time flat with all the people, the big high caliber hunting rifles, which is way beyond what we had back in the days when we decimated game and in the past, like Great Depression and before. So this is why you really seriously need to think about what are the long range prepping items that you need to have. So think about what you use on a daily basis and considering supplying yourself with that for the next few years if you can provision yourself in that way. But you better be thinking about the longer term. Get you a homestead. If you can't get a homestead, if you're not owning a homestead, do like I showed in a video a few weeks ago, telling you how to go out and approach a farmer who's way out in the middle of nowhere and start working. Offer him help, him or her. Offer to help them build a relationship, and then tell them you want to apprentice from them. Then when you're talking to them, you can see if they're interested in prepping or surviving, of having a survival tribe. Because when it goes down, if they're relying on tractors and all this modern equipment to maintain their farm, it ain't happening. A lot of homesteaders are using more primitive tools and can be good to go. But also, so go to your prepping groups, go to your farmers markets, and seek out people that might be like-minded. Also, go to survivaltribenetwork.com. Yeah, you'll see that link in my videos too, and join that and start finding people who are like-minded to you in your area and form organizations and communities. That may be one of the best ways to do it. So I've got all these resources available to you to help you find a way to get through these times. That's what they're there for. That's why we formed the survivaltribenetwork.com. Wisal, one of our followers here, paid for that website herself. And she paid a pretty penny out of her pocket to give you guys a tool. And she has to ask for nothing back other than the hope that people will see what they need to do and use that to self-organize. I'm not telling you how to form your tribes and groups. We're just put a tool out there to where you can do it for yourself. Just vet the people you're getting involved in. But if you're going to go to a farm, bring value, bring skills or learn skills, just offer to help out. And then when it hits the fan, buy the hose, the tools, the seeds, then you got something of value to offer. Is, hey, you ain't got no seeds, you ain't got no fuel. I can farm this plot of land here with my hose and stuff, and you can have half of my proceeds. See, it's called sharecropping. And I'm not claiming that's easy to do. All that kind of farming is a lot of work, but it means you could eat. And sometimes in the old days, people work really hard all year long just to be able to eat and put a shirt on their back and have a pair of pants to wear and a pair of shoes, maybe a little coffee. That's what people used to work from sun to sundown just to have a few meager little things. And they work really hard. So that may be the times we're coming into. So get yourself in shape if you can too. All right, enough said. Just be aware. Like I tell you, keep your eyes wide open and head on a swivel, because people that follow me here do that, and that's why we are known as swivel heads. So thank you for watching. If you find value in this, subscribe to my channel, bang the notification bell, click all, and share it among your friends and my other videos. I got a lot of resources below telling you how to survive an EMP, telling you how to survive a nuclear disaster. I've got videos telling you how to purify and sanitize water, how to garden, how to do it where you're doing it based on what you got, not having to go to the store to buy stuff, because there's going to be no stores. Check this stuff out. Anyway, thank you for watching, and Greg out.